the manifesto theme for the New Patriotic Party confronted head-on the biggest problem Ghana was facing as at 2016 when we were going into the election. And remember, at the time when unemployment was the biggest, later the results of the 2016 election showed that what we picked from national security on the grounds was true. JM didn't lose by more than 1 million votes by accident. The unemployment, the frustration in the system, the suffering, the struggling industrial sector because of unavailability of power or instability in the power situation, all were true, evidenced by the results in the elections. This is the Ghana Akufo-Addo inherited from John Dramani Mahama, who had been president and co-president for 8 years. Growth of the economy was declining. How do you call it? Growth was declining. Fiscal deficit, which is one of the indicators of prudence and primary balance, was in a worse situation. In fact, I have the figures here. When you check, Ghana's trade balance was in the negative for 3-4 straight years under JM. What it basically meant is that what came to us as forex was less compared to what we had to use to buy or purchase services and goods. Any country that has a negative trade balance, a negative primary balance, will struggle to keep an economy that brings relief to the people and creates opportunities. And that's why under JM, unemployment was the biggest item in this country. This is the economy Akufo-Addo inherited 7 years ago. Akufo-Addo inherited a Ghana that could not afford to pay allowances for nurses, let alone dream of paying for the fees of kids, over 1 million kids.
Decided or could not afford.
But if you are struggling with allowances and you are saying that it is difficult because of the revenues compared to expenditure, and you were thinking of revoking the allowances, how can you then...
Was that a reason given by the government?
Oh, the man chair. You were, how do you call it?
Okay, go on.
Wait. They told us that they wanted to take in more nurses. So they wanted to take away the allowance. So that, look, Doc, I've said it and I repeat it. If you've not suffered hunger before, if you've not lived in a family where paying fees is a problem before, you underrate and undermine allowances that cushion people in school. And I'll mention it. My twin sister was a nurse. I was in medical school. She was getting money every month. I nearly switched from medicine to nursing because life was not easy. So these basic arguments like let's expand intake and remove allowance. Who told you it is easy to take out allowance and keep lives intact? And so we had an economy that basically could not sustain paying of allowance. This is the Ghana Akufo-Addo inherited. Akufo-Addo inherited a Ghana that will not keep the lights on for close to 3-4 straight years. Well, the viewer watching lived in Ghana. I was in Ghana. We will not belabor the point. You knew what happened to you before Akufo-Addo came. The cost to your partners at home, whether the lights were on or not. So you prepare your mind. That was the Ghana we were left with. And if you have a country that cannot keep the power on, how can industry grow from a 12-hour economy to a 24-hour economy? We had a Ghana, by the way, by the time JM was checking out, we had gone into an IMF program. And we all have sort of agreed that it is a challenged economy. It is an economy in some difficulty that goes to the IMF, where the interest rates on what you receive is lower than the capital market. So with all this hype, with all these wild comments about the JM, new JM that we'll get and all that, this JM, after 8 years, actually landed us at an IMF program. That is what the records show and the history shows. But let's now come into the first term of Akufo-Addo. In the first budget statement read by Ken Ofori-Atta, boldly, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo decided and told the nation that we have what it takes to pay the fees of over 200,000 kids annually, and that we cannot wait any other extra year to prepare enough, so-called, before paying for their fees. And by the way, the statistics show that before we came, an average of 100,000 kids qualified for SS but didn't enter. And I'm not surprised because I nearly also didn't enter. It took some loans from ADB to go to PRESEC. So this president sometimes is talked about like some mythical, how do you call it, insensitive boss. But this same Akufo-Addo has paid fees for over 1 million kids so far. Kids who are found in homes in this country. This Akufo-Addo has given us a power availability situation that is better than what JM gave us after 8 years. This same President Akufo-Addo has made it possible for industries and factories to come up, and not only that, if you take a factory like Casapreco, under the 1D 1F program, there were serious tax exemptions given to Casapreco, which made it possible for Casapreco to acquire a defunct, moribund, dead factory in Tanoso within the Ashanti region. And as we speak, Doctor, there are youth within the Tanoso environs who are on their way to work. Youth that would have been part of the unemployment force if Nana had not stimulated one district, one factory. President Akufo-Addo, before COVID struck, worked hard to make Ghana the #1 destination for foreign direct investment in West Africa. Ghana was the #1. Before COVID struck, Ghana was listed as one of the high-performing economies and shining examples in West Africa. In fact, the first 3 years of Akufo-Addo was directly opposite to the last 3 years of JM. Nana Akufo-Addo recorded a positive trade balance for 3 consecutive years. And I listened to my brother Sammy. He says Akufo-Addo didn't mention unemployment. Man, chair, you don't have to mention the word unemployment to show that you are interested in creating opportunities. The president mentioned 1D 1F in his speech. Even mentioned that over 170,000 people have been absorbed. It is the opportunities you create that speak to unemployment, not the word itself. If it's a word, I would have called Eugene to keep unemployment in the speech. But it's opportunities. The president spoke about revival of the CAT project, the Confanote Teaching Hospital, a project that has been moribund for the past 40 years. Manche, Bononi, you are doing no panonofio. 40 years. Confanote Teaching Hospital.
Can boy question be more biana.
A project that has been moribund for 40 years. JM was in power for 8 years. The CAT project was hanging. It's a big white elephant. It remained so for 8 years. And the Akufo-Addo, it is being built at the cost of about 138 million euros. Revival of projects. These will create jobs. A lot of youth are working. So Akufo-Addo doesn't need to mention the word unemployment. The opportunities you create will speak to employment. The University of Ghana, how do you call it? University of Ghana Sports Stadium. Anytime I pass by and see the stadium, I get inspired that all is not lost for Ghana in terms of hope. Structures that were hanging for years are coming up. It is a sign that you have a government that is working. Look, my brother says that Nana didn't mention corruption. You don't need to use the word corruption to show that you mean business. The president mentioned the judgment.
Okoe.
Oh boy.
Are you seriously saying that after all your analysis, I didn't even want to interrupt you. This national security thing about jobs and unemployment, it happened during President Kufuor's time. That is what led to that thing that was created. The YE or something, yes. That was a national security report. So it was not during Mills Mahama. But then again, you're right. The issue about jobs. That was the campaign promise of the NPP. Are you suggesting that an issue of employment, which is what underpinned President Akufo-Addo's ascendancy to the president, and the fact that we now have a report from the government statistician which tells us that unemployment is at an all-time high. Job creation, employment or unemployment, should not be a standalone subject. I mean, we are able to let naming of airports be standalone. We can remember to specifically mention the naming of airports. But the issue of employment, unemployment, job creation, something which was the pivot around ascension to power, it cannot stand alone. And you are saying that when 1D1F is mentioned, there is an element of employment. When there's something, there's an element. So we should go chasing those things to find.
Employment, one each 170,000. No, call for no phone and be on questions. Manche, look, the president mentioned Attorney General, the orientation of the current Attorney General. Under President Mahama, we had an Attorney General, in fact, a Deputy Attorney General, Martin Odro, it's on record. Amidu said he told him, don't sit here in the office and be determining cases and conceding and yielding and putting the state in a situation of liability. Go to court and defend every claim. Amidu said it. He said he told him, Martin, check out from this behavior. These are all forms. These are forms that corruption can emerge or be created or be consolidated. And under
are you suggesting that under your government you have not paid your judgment debts?
But that's not,